Oh, and the question in chat, what are some good resources to get started using Claude? Actually, it's kind of funny. The best way to the best resources for using Claude is Claude. So actually to begin to use it. And we're going to be taking a look at Claude Code today as well. Claude Code is really good at what's called progressively revealing capabilities. So I'll actually show you where it actually suggests additional ways of doing things. Um, it's really designed to be conversational and to progressively reveal what the capabilities are for using it. I asked the same question because um, I'm of the old school, right? Of like, well, you read everything about a product before you start using it, and I've learned whole programming languages by reading a book on that programming language, right? And then that's how I learned how to program that language. But that's not actually how you learn about the AI agents. You actually learn by using them. That's often the best way. Um, but the one thing that I will caution against, and those who are just entering, we haven't started yet. I'm just answering questions. That I would caution about is asking the model about itself because it may not know. So you have to make sure that if you're doing that, don't assume the model is going to have knowledge about itself. You're going to have to ask it to research so it can ask questions about itself because if you think about it, the model was being trained, and the model was not trained on the capabilities of the model itself because it wasn't trained yet, right? So everything that we know about models and often about frameworks come after that model ended its training. So if it is not doing research on itself to answer questions about itself, it won't be able to do a good job. Little bit of a caveat there. All right, other questions before we get started? We're going to give folks about another minute to come on in. Are there other questions that are top of mind?
I've got one.
Yes.
I've been playing around with a lot of the skills and the projects here with Claude through our VUIT's Bedrock proxy. One of
Yes,
the detractors for the Bedrock proxy is that it effectively breaks a lot of Claude desktop's
it
behaviors.
does.
For example, the biggest one is web search.
Yep.
Um, and there's a double-edged sword there. One is it does make me be a lot more disciplined in what I'm having the model be doing and kind of really, have to design what I want to do before I start talking to it. But do you know of any, I don't want to say workarounds, not because I'm trying to bypass any security control, but really just to get some level of connecting more information to it. I've
Yeah.
gone down the rabbit hole of just cloning GitHub repositories and then
Yeah.
into my projects folders, and then really just filling that with documentation, just to
Yes.
put more data into it. But can you comment on any workflows?
Actually, you're putting the finger on it, which is providing sufficient context. One way of doing that absolutely is to provide a repository, or if you have something like Claude Code, Claude Cowork, pointing to a subdirectory, whether or not it's actually a repository that has that information in there. Um, but not having the uh, what's interesting, if you have the ability to build skills, you can build a search skill. So you can, absolutely that skills also provide tools. So you could do that as well. It would just be more effortful. It would not be nearly as optimized, but you might be able to optimize it for the particular things that you're going to be doing. Keep in mind, and let me just be clear, you were not using the Claude platform on AWS, right? You were using the Claude API agent. Is that what you were using?
Yeah, the Bedrock proxy is it the
The
it's the
Bedrock spot. Yeah, 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 exactly right.
no,
Which is
actually that's
why
great.
AWS gave us the uh, Claude platform on AWS, which is separate from the Bedrock. So now you have the full tooling, which is available, and that's what I put forward. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I did put that forward to VUIT for a review.
Yes, I heard about that coming through our GRC team. Excited to see what comes out of it. Actually, that gives me a lot to work on because so before the AI days you guys did this spring,
Yeah.
I had been using Perplexity as a personal user, and
Yes.
was really it was great because it was kind of the first good web searchable
AI.
AI,
Yeah.
oh yeah, AI provider, but it left a lot to be desired because it searched everything and didn't give you a whole lot of
Right.
granularity to dismiss bogus information because it's the internet.
Right.
But you know what? I could see a skill that is entirely built on wget or curling.
Yes.
Like my use is mostly documentation.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Other people have built MCPs, and we've talked just a little bit about those. But skills are very lightweight to very quickly spin up a very targeted tool. Fantastic. Other questions? Um, okay, is it possible to see some of the skills that the team has created? Oh, I would love that. I'm struggling to come up with examples to wow our faculty. Great, great point. What I would like to do is and actually, I'll use this to kick us off. Today, we're going to be taking a look a little bit more closely at building skills. We're going to do a breakout session to build some skills. But also, I want to introduce you more to Claude Code. Now, we've talked about the different surfaces that you could use to create skills. One of them would be chat. Chat's fine. Problem is that you can't give a whole ton of context, right, necessarily. There's Cowork, right? And actually here, I'll pull this up so we can look at this and you can, you'll be reminded of what these are. Let me share. There we go, Claude Code. Here we go. So here we go. So here's chat. Absolutely, you can call it the skill creator skill here, right? Here's a skill creator skill. Now, the issue here is you're going to have to put in a lot of context here to give the model to give the model background that it needs to write a skill that's really good. So you might have to write a whole lot. One way to do this though is hey, have a conversation with your expert or just start getting some notes from yourself using the audio to text recording. Remember on an iPhone you can do that just with notes. But you know, or you can actually even just speak as well. That'll work as well, just to get as much context here as you can. So that's one way of doing this. Another way of doing this is to use Cowork. Cowork's great because now you recall right here where it says work in project. Well, you can choose a subdirectory. And this subdirectory might have a ton of things in it. Like here's one that I've been working on the last couple of days, doing a presentation on Thursday to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Mobile on Thursday. And so I'm saying, hey, I want to use the subdirectory. Whenever I come up with the skill or whenever I do anything, I want to use the subdirectory. Why do I want to use the subdirectory? Well, if I go into the USACE mobile, and let me go and change my share so you can see all of this. Version of screen. That's about right. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Here's the subdirectory that I pointed it to. And you'll notice this is the federal acquisition regulations right here. This is in this subdirectory is 1,500 pages of regulations from the US government that govern how acquisitions have to happen. So I wanted to write to be able to author a skill to assist those acquisition agents, so to assist the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers personnel that are responsible for acquisitions. I don't know that stuff. I don't know the background, but I was able to get all of the documentation. And so any skill that I create with an agent, so if I'm using Cowork to create this and pointing it to here, I can say, following the guidelines as outlined in the FAR, write a skill which does the following. Now, remember, the agent has the ability to go and find the files, pull the specific information. So remember, this is all about creating the context needed. So now I can cite the particular article, the pages, as it's creating the skills, those skills are going to be so much better than the ones I would get if I had tried to do it just through chat. Through chat, is the model going to know about federal acquisition? Yes. But guess what? Federal acquisition rules changed significantly in the last few months. So it would be completely wrong. Now, because I've loaded what I need, and I'm not doing search in this case, instead, what I did was I said, hey, go to this subdirectory. And now it has the latest information. I know that it's the latest because I put it there. So that's another way to create agents. All right, so we have some, and Miranda, if you can let me know if there are any questions you want me to take that, yeah, it looks like you're getting all of them, and Jesse, you're getting them too. That's great. So yes, and where does the subdirectory? Notice this is actually under users, my username, documents. So it's actually here on my drive. So part of our job when we're creating custom agents to do things is to collect the information which we're going to need in order for the agent to be knowledgeable and targeted for exactly what we needed to do. So it is our curation of that information. Before I go into anything else, what questions do you have about creating agents so far? And you can unmute and ask.
Jesse, I think Miranda's trying to answer it in the chat, but I might as well ask it. Um, if we create a skill using Cowork, can somebody who does not have a Claude Pro account, like a student, use it within the chat, or do they have to have a pro account to just use the skill and not edit it?
Uh, we'll have to validate this to make sure this is still the case. But previously, when we tested this, yes, it could be used in the free account in chat. Now, they won't have access to Cowork, they won't have access to code, but yes, they can use that skill. That's a powerful way to give them, really, some nice packaged assignments, background resources. It's a favorite way for me to actually get information out to them. And remember, skills are cross-platform. They'll work in, you can create a skill in Cowork and use it in ChatGPT. You can use it in Gemini. Even with the open source models, you can use it with open source models just so long as they are skill compliant, and almost every model is now. It's so powerful.
Including Amplify and
Now, Amplify, I Amplify, I don't think so. Magic, yes. It's a little bit complicated for you to be able to do that, but you can. But let's say you want to do it in Amplify where I don't believe they have skills, and I could be wrong. If anybody knows better, if this has changed, let me know. Yes, and you can use skills in Magic, absolutely. In Amplify, I don't believe that they have skills there, but what you can do is you can create the skill as you need it. Keep in mind, and you can say, create a prompt which carries out as much of the skill as possible. So in that case, it won't be able to have the code. It won't be able to, to do things like that. But at least you capture some of the capability and could still do it in Amplify. We are checking, and Max and I were just talking about this. I've put in a request for VUIT to review Claude platform on AWS, which is a way for us to use Claude platform in AWS. I've asked them to assess whether this would be appropriate for level 3 data. If it is, then we're going to have a great solution. It will mean that you'll need to pay for the tokens. You won't be able to use subscription, but you'll have full access to Claude Cowork, Claude Code. Excellent. Other questions? Okay.
Jesse,
Now,
I have
go ahead,
Jesse.
please.
Yeah, I'm talking about the actual I don't know if you call them languages or apps, Opus or Haiku or whatever.
The model, yes.
The model. Okay, I was creating a skill in Cowork, and it suggested I should use Haiku instead of Opus. I mean, you follow that? Why does it do that?
Sure. This is a really, really interesting thing. So, Haiku 4.5 is fastest, it's cheap, It's just not as knowledgeable about the world as Opus 4.7. Opus 4.7 is the best model, right? I mean, there are models which may be a little bit better for specific things, but it's also expensive, right? And you only get to use it so much. So it turns out you probably want to write the skill using Opus 4.7. But when you want to use the skill, you might be able to use a far lesser model because the skill is so good at filling in the information and the process knowledge to carry out a task. So Haiku 4.5, simple old tiny Haiku 4.5, given a skill, can perform at the level of Opus 4.7. So here's Haiku with a skill that's been augmented and can do one particular task or a set of tasks as defined by that skill up to this level. Opus 4.7 for many of these tasks without skills is about right there. So Haiku really knows how to use skills. It really knows it can, if you have a good skill that's well authored, it can operate as well as Opus 4.7, Opus 4.7 without skills. Now, Opus 4.7 with skills, it's going to be like near ceiling. It's going to be really tough to beat, but you can get very good performance. That's why it might have suggested using Haiku 4.5 to actually use your skills. But here's one thing. If you're writing a skill and you start like this, oops, uh, I want to make a skill that dot, 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 right? This might be okay, but there's a problem. And the problem is Opus 4.7 has had some additional training. So it now knows a little bit about making skills. I've noticed that it's less likely to call up the skill creator skill. So that means it'll try to take its own knowledge to make a skill, which will not be as good. So when you want to make a skill, it's really a good idea to use a / skill creator skill. So you start typing it. You see how it said skill creator, create new skills? This is forcing the model to use the skill creator skill. You want to make sure that you're using that. So it's fully aware of all the capabilities and it will follow best practices. It's a weird thing I've just noticed with Claude 4.7. It's not as good at kicking off the skill creator skill when you're creating it. So Mirabelle, when you asked it to create the skill, if it did not kick off the skill creator skill, you might have been getting kind of iffy information on it.
No, I did use the skill creator skill,
Good, then you're
but
good. Yeah, it
yeah,
may have just been
okay.
talking about when you're running it then.
Okay, running, yes. Okay, so
Mhm.
run it in Haiku because it's
Yeah,
not as
yeah,
hungry.
yeah. And and if you have something that you know that you're going to be running in Haiku, you want to test it there too, right? So you actually explicitly here after you've created the skill, you go to Haiku, you run it, you see how well it's working.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Absolutely. What other questions, Max?
Yeah, piggybacking on the what we were just talking about, is there a way to benchmark or assess how well your skills or your overall process is that you can begin using the smaller models? Um,
Absolutely. Now, one way is you create the skill creator skill, it will come up with tests for you, right? And in that case, it'll run the test 3 times with the skill. It'll run 3 different tasks with the skill and those same 3 tasks without. So, skill one with that, with problem number one with and without, problem number two with and without, problem number three with and without. That sort of design that it does. But it's always using the same model. So what I like to do is I like to ask it to come up with a test case. So there's 2 ways to do this. One, give it a test case and say, make this reproducible, right? So give me a way to reproduce this test case so that I can then change the model and then test it again. That's kind of the best way because then it's repeatable and then you're certain that it's going to be working. Now the other is you simply take your skill, change your model to Haiku 4.5, and then you rerun Skill Creator. And you say, I just want to test the skill. And then it will come up with those 3 test cases and run them. But then you're not really doing a head-to-head comparison between how did it do in Opus 4.7 versus Haiku 4.5. And that's really kind of what you want to have.
Yeah, it's just giving you was this good enough as, a cursory check.
As a curse and more of a cursory check. But if you actually ask it to, if you brainstorm with the model and you brainstorm with Opus 4.7, what would this look like? Help me figure out how it's work. Maybe make another skill that'll score it, you know? So you're testing the skill in Haiku 4.5, but you're scoring it in Opus 4.7. You go back and forth for the skills and the tools and the capability that you need. All right. All right. Other questions? All right. Then let's go ahead and talk about Claude Code. So, you've seen that you can create a skill here in Cowork. So when do you go to Claude Code? Remember, let me ask you this. Does anybody remember what's different between Claude Code here and Claude Code, and I'll zoom in a little bit, that's teeny tiny, and Claude Code when I'm running it in the command line like this? What's the difference between these two? So here's Claude Code in the app. Here's Claude Code on the command line. What are some differences here?
Jesse, will the command line, will that give you the code so that you can kind of edit it on, in that shell or whatever it might be?
Yeah, so it can be easier to get to the code that's written here in the command line because that's definitely sitting on your, it's easy to have that sit on your laptop. Now you can actually select a folder here and have it land there, but you're right, you actually have to make that extra step and say, oh, I put the code in the folder where I can get to it. So that's absolutely related. Yes. So the issue is here, it's running a virtual machine, which is running a virtual machine in a special location and virtual machine on your machine to write and to run this code. And then it can move things down to the folder. Now you can also run local, you can also run in a cloud environment. This gives you a lot of flexibility about where the code is being authored and where it would run. When you're in the command line, this is what we call bare iron. This is like it's on your laptop. It's running on your laptop. This also means it has easy access to everything that you give access to in that. So again, you can give it a big subdirectory. You can give it permission to do things and have access to other things on your laptop. So that's the difference. And this is uglier, right? I mean, the command line is just like, it's command line. What I'd like to do is I'm going to take you through, first of all, why you might want to author a skill using Claude Code and sort of show you what it looks like in the difference, why you might want to author Claude in Claude Code here, and why you might want to do it locally, and what this looks like. So is Claude Code CLI lighter on token use? Not necessarily. They can both burn through them. Interesting thing. If you are running Claude Code on desktop, I'm sorry, if you're running Claude Code on command line, you can point it to a locally running model. So now this is like heavy duty stuff, but just know there are models that you can run locally, which in some cases are not bad. They're about the equivalent of Opus 4.5 without skills. So if you have an immense amount of work to do, but it's not necessarily really, really complex, you could, if you have a powerful enough machine, you could be running a large language model or a medium language model or a small language model locally on your laptop and have both Claude Code and Claude Cowork pointed to that. It's not going to be as capable. It's not going to be the frontier model that has all the knowledge, but you can use skills with it and you can run it as much and as long as you want to, and it doesn't cost you anything because you're running and inferencing locally. That also means that you can run very sensitive data so long as you're running completely locally. Are you allowed to have it on your laptop? Are you allowed to run programs against it on your laptop? Right. Talk to View IT to make sure that you're doing it safely, but that is one way to actually do that. Can you call up the CLI from a terminal emulator of choice? Let me show you what this looks like. So, um, and actually, here, let me do this first. Let me talk about when you would do it, and then I'll show you how to pull it up. So here's Claude Code. Um, Let me see. What do you all think? Why do you think I might? We have an idea of why I might use Cowork instead of chat to write a skill. Why do you suppose I might use code, Claude Code to write the skill? What ideas do y'all have?
If you're using a lot of resources,
Could be programming preference, resources. Yeah. So here's the thing. Cowork absolutely can write some computer code sort of behind the scenes to help you solve a problem. But it is writing code for its own use. It is writing code for its own use, which means it's a little bit more difficult to steer. So Claude Code is you want to build something, and for one thing, you might want to have a very long context running for a long time, or you know that the code is going to be complex and you want to be able to edit the code, or you want to be able to steer it more, or you know it's going to be complex programming and you want to have all the resources necessary to write really good code that will underlie this skill. The other thing is, if you have massive amounts of information that you need to handle in a special way, you'll want to use Claude Code to actually manage that and get it into the form that you need. And I'll give you an example. And Max, that's a great idea. Let me share with you the issue that I had with, and I'll start with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So here I had this 1,500 pages in the federal acquisition regulations. So a ton of information, and these were in PDFs, and these were in ugly PDFs. Can somebody remind us, is there a caution we should have in mind when we are loading up a lot of PDFs into context? And what alternative might we want to think about? What's right? It can absolutely the models can read PDFs. What issue might this raise? Context rot? Oh, good one. OCR? Yeah, remember that PDFs can have a ton of information, right? They might have lots of images. The entire document might be in what's called an image format. It's not really the document, it's a picture of the document stored in a PDF. So it's an image. So that means you'd have to do some recognition of the words within. That's optical character recognition, OCR, or some kind of processing to turn this image into text. You don't know what you have. If you have a PDF, it could be any of those things. Um, and all of those take space. That's right. So what is the native format, the easiest format, if you can, if it's appropriate, you can get this into? Cheryl, you're exactly right. Markdown. You want the text, you don't want the formatting information, you want all the information. Oh yeah, and PDFs are a great way to poison and to put in hidden commands and all of that. So you want the Markdown file. So here's the problem that I had. So I want to work in USACE mobile. So here we are. See, I want to work in this one. So in what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a command line interface right here. So I'm going to show you how to do this on a Mac. It's going to be different on Windows, but kind of similar. So here, let me scroll up this. Let me scroll this up as far as I can go. Let's do this. All right, so I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say new terminal at folder. So I'm going to click that and this is the command line. So this is the command line. And if you've not worked with command lines, don't worry. If this is unfamiliar to you, that's not a problem. Know that this is a capability though, and and we're happy to answer questions about this during office hours. So how do you kick off code right here? You just type Claude and you pull it up. Now what's going to happen is it's going to tell you which model it's using. In this case, it's Opus 4.7. There are ways to point this to other projects, to other things as well. It tells you where it's doing its work, the version it's using, and notice this is I mentioned before the progressive reveal of capabilities. Here's one of them. It says, oh, by the way, you can shift tab to cycle. Claude, because it's going to be taking actions on your computer, it's going to be able to change anything it wants to in the subdirectory with your permission. And remember, in the subdirectory, I have a ton of information, right? So I have, we'll go into use case mobile again. So I have all this information, tons of files. It's going to ask me every time. It asks, whether can it create a file? Can it delete a file? Can it write this code? Can it run the code? I have here auto mode. Auto mode means it's going to uh, do safe things, but it will ask me about unsafe things. But notice it said shift tab to cycle. So I can shift tab. Oh, and see, now it's telling me, oh, question mark for shortcuts, for agents, period for agents, accept edits on. So I'm just doing shift tab, plan mode on, auto mode on. So shift tab, it told me to try shift tab and to see what's going to happen. So Claude Code, you have a lot more control of what's happening. Claude Cowork, it's making assumptions about what it's doing. And in Claude Cowork, if I wanted to do this work, I could say, hey, think carefully before you do this. In Claude Code, hitting Shift Tab, like it suggested that I do, Shift Tab, you notice that it can go into plan mode. Notice where it has the little, notice where it says that's the pause button. That means plan mode means don't do anything, think deeply, come up with a plan for me before you do anything. Notice what auto mode is. Auto mode is fast forward. Hey, go ahead and do everything. And then look what the symbol for auto accept also like fast forward, do everything, but ask me before you do. So this is Claude Code. I'm going to operate in auto mode right now. And I'm going to say, tell me about what is in this subdirectory. And you're going to see very up close and personal exactly what it's doing. And you don't see this in Claude Cowork. It's listing the directories, it's going through top level files, sub-projects. Here's overall what's going on. It's not a Git repo. Probably should be a Git repo. Now at this point, and if you don't know what a Git repo is, don't worry. But at this point, the lovely thing that I could do is could say, oh, I want this to be a Git repo and want to have it on GitHub in my on GitHub. Now, the other thing is, and this is just kind of fun, it kind of looks like a teenager wrote it. Yeah, some teenagers did write part of this, absolutely. And so it'll have fun different things that'll pop up because people got tired of seeing processing. So it'll pop up different words. So now look at this. It's doing some hardcore stuff for me. It's turning this into what's called a Git repository, and then it's going to turn this into GitHub as well. These are really hardcore coding tasks that I can ask it to do. And uh, and it's handling all of the different things that could be happening. So if I'm dealing with something where I know that it's going to be code heavy. I'm going to have to deal with things. Know that you can use Claude Code to handle those tasks and still create skills. So we're going to let it go through. We're going to let it do its work here. Notice here, notice the bash. How many people have heard of a bash command? Go and just give a quick thumbs up if you've heard of a bash command. Okay. Trinity, what's a bash command? Give us your impression of what a bash command is.
Isn't that just a any command that you can run within a bash terminal?
Yeah, right. So those are the commands that actually give it at the command line, and there are so many of them. Trinity, how good are you at bash commands? Do you remember what they are? Like
Oh yeah. So like pwd,
Yeah,
cd is
present working
one.
directory, current directory.
Yes.
Oh, you're so good. Um, and then there's like grep, which goes and does regular expressions. All this, which I tend to forget. I forget what the options are. I forget, so I forget all this. The agents are really good at this. So it turns out this is broadly how agents are so good at what they do. They're very good at bash commands. So when you ask about what's happening in the subdirectory, what it did was it was doing it was doing lists, it was looking and it was doing grep and it was reading what was in the files. It is kind of like the best programmer ever. And that's how the agents are able to do their work. It's just in Cowork, it's hidden. In Cowork, it's happening behind the scenes. So think of Claude Code as you are a front row seat of everything that's happening. So if you need to have that capability, you're going to be a front row seat. So check it out. So hey, it's doing a bash. It's actually showing us the top 20, the bottom 20 lines, two files over. So here, another bash command. It's doing find. It's doing brew. Ton of stuff. I don't GitHub LFS isn't installed. It's going to install it. This is stuff that I at one time knew how to do really quickly. I'd have to spend hours trying to figure out how to do this, and it's handling all this for me. So now it's handling all that, and now let's go and look at an example of. I'm just going to let it do its thing. Let me give you an example of what I did previously with Claude Code. So here, this was the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I had it take a look at all of the artifacts and then do some work for me, and I'll show you what the work looks like in just one moment. There's a question. Go ahead and with your question, Gina. Was it Gina? Yes.
No, sorry, it lifted my hand automatically.
Okay. All right. Okay. Very, very good. So here, I needed to deal with all of the issues that I had in here. So I asked it to write a plan. Take a look at the conversation that I had. Again, conversations are a good way to get requirements in. Look at the compliance folder. I want to create a skill to demonstrate solving this problem in Claude Cowork, and then want to generate a prompt to create a Gemini enterprise agent to do this. A lot of work. So I asked it to do a plan, and it took about 30 minutes coming up with the plan. And it gave me the plan before it did anything. So here's the plan. And, what's the gap? Full analysis of what's going on. Long conversation about this. Uh, and then further conversation about trying to do this and the problem that I was running into. So in this case, it was a really sticky problem, and I spent about 2 hours having it go back and forth and look very specifically in all the files and make sure I was making no mistake. This would have been very difficult to do in Claude Cowork. This is very finely detailed work, and I needed to make sure that everything was right. And so I had it write code for me. Not that I was looking at all the code, but I was able to ask it to check itself. Immense amounts of work. And notice I can go back and check everything. And at the end, yes, what I had was I had my skills, right? I ended up in the same place, but now I have skills that have within them detailed code. I'm assured about what's in there. So Claude Code allows you to go as deeply as you want to. If you're a hardcore coder, and if you know how to read code, and if you want to build something that is, yes, a skill, but uses a lot of code so it can do things efficiently, Claude Code is the surface that you'll want to use to create your skills. It is a great way to engage with files, with long-term planning, long horizon problem solving. The harder and more difficult things are, the more likely you might want to consider using Claude Code. But know that most certainly Cowork is no slouch, but I wouldn't have been able to look all the code that it was creating. I would have had to like go in and ask it to show me. It's creating code and solving problems on the back end. Sometimes you need to look at all the dirty work to actually figure out if it's being done right. I hope this gives you an idea of when you'd want to when you want to create a skill with chat, Cowork versus code. What questions do you have about Claude Code, writing skills, and where to write them? Anything about what we've talked about so far?
When working through, especially the CLI, are we able to set things up to run more automated, completely without user interaction? For example, we see all the news stories about developers walking around with their laptop not fully closed just to keep Claude running in the background to kind of obviate that just because they're able
Yes.
to, run cron jobs or something else.
So actually, and this was really in the last 2 months, we have a couple of things. One, we have loop. So you can loop through and actually have it go through and not be running all the time and actually check to see whether a process is done. Second, you now have channels. You can and you can do this both with Cowork and also with Claude Code, so you can communicate with it remotely. Notice here under Claude Code, if you click here, it says where Claude runs, either locally in the cloud, or you can run Claude RC. And what that means is you can control Claude, have it do some long running stuff, but check in on it on your phone. Let me know when you're done. So I had the stuff that I was just showing you ran for about 4 hours because it was going through and translating it was total about 3,000 pages, translating it over to Markdown and doing assurance checks to make sure that it was capturing all the information and also capturing the proper page numbers for the documentation, which was kind of effortful. And I was actually checking remotely. So I was checking on, and so I was checking in to see where it was, what's your current status, and then I had it notify me when it was done. So, and that way, if you're running it in the cloud, you can close your laptop, even turn it off. If you're running it locally, your machine still has to be running, but you could lock it, you could have it running and still communicate with it elsewhere. You can also schedule jobs. So I have a job which is scheduled to run every Monday morning now. I'm on the State AI Advisory Committee council group. So I run a research agent on anything which is new in advancements in AI, things that are of particular interest to the council, anything along those lines, I'll actually run and then send out to the other council members. And that's an agent running on a schedule every week. So yes, you can actually schedule and control much more fine-grained control. What other questions do you have about creating skills in the different areas?
When you did that last one in the code and made all those MD files, they're all
Yes.
now in your GitHub?
They are, yes. So they're in the GitHub and they're also local as well. And here we can actually here we can take a look and see where they are locally. Um, so this is the far overhaul, and here you'll see I have Markdown. So here's where I have the Markdown files. Some of them are large, right? And then we have so here we go. Here's the one with the bunch of information. We can sort of see what it looks like. So here's where I did the analysis of it and I had it say what the sections were and what the text is. So this is how I actually put the information in so it'd be able to cite exactly where it came from. But yeah, these are all Markdown files. That's right. And that's what took 4 hours for it to do all that processing. All right, other questions? Then let's go back and take a look uh, at a skill creation. Let's have a conversation first about what skills you have in mind, and then I'm going to share again a skill that I showed at the very beginning, but I'm going to revisit now because this is a really compelling case for faculty. What ideas do you all have for either skills that you want to create or that you have created? Please share and go ahead and unmute and share, or you can put it in chat, but unmute would be great, so people can start getting their ideas flowing.
I'd love to hear if people are using or creating their skills that include calls to, say, a location API.
Mm. So has anybody used a look as that's a cool idea. I like that. Anybody actually using that yet? Well, let's go and kick that off. Uh, Uses my current location. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay. Uses my current location to trigger a task. Is that what you're kind of thinking there, or?
Right. And sorry about the background noise. I'm driving on my lunch and learn.
Oh no, and actually, just so you know, Zoom is really good, and it filters out all the noise. We hear nothing.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm looking at doing is providing the ability, like it is a task. Let's say I'm in a hospital and I need to find a walker for, someone who has broken their ankle. And that's not something that I'm going to immediately maybe know how to get to or where to get to for a supply house for that sort of item. And so essentially it's like saying, right, walkers near me, but it's kind of a specific sort of product. And so I'm looking for a way to, first of all, get the location working in my app, but then I'm going to have it basically pull within, say, just a mile of where I'm at. And it's going to look for some other things, but I have to start with the location.
No, that makes perfect sense. So I might say, I want to find specific resources. Think medical supplies. We'll do that. Think medical supplies uh, close to me. Um,
Did you
so we're just. Oh, go ahead. Now, this is one of those where actually I might have kicked this one off in Claude Code, but I want you to see what it's going to look like in Cowork. I might say Claude Code because I might want to pull that code out and use it someplace else. But check this out. Before I draft anything, I want to understand the use case better. So keep in mind, you'll do a first pass, and maybe it's not the greatest prompt. Maybe you didn't describe it really well.
excuse me,
You
you're
can
not
iterate on it.
sharing your screen.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you're so good. Thank you so much for being brave and mentioning, because I've gone whole half lectures where I've forgotten to share my screen and people have been too polite to tell me. It's horrible. All right, so here we go. I want to make a skill that uses my current location to trigger an action. I want to find a specific resource close to me. And it says before I draft anything, I want to understand the use case better. So how
Jesse,
should the skill determine your current location? Oh, go ahead.
are you, and I'm just, again,
And you're
driving.
driving, so you
Are
can't
you
see it all.
using, right now, are you using the CLI or are you using the web interface?
Oh,
Because, well, I'm thinking the reason I question is because I have found the web interface to be a little more, what's the word? Engaging, uh, for like design and so forth, or are you using more like you talked about earlier, you're really commanding what's happening
yeah.
at the bare root?
So I am using Claude Desktop. And the reason why I'm using Claude Desktop is because I want to be able to point you to a subdirectory for it to use. And actually, I've made a mistake here in that I'm still in Usace Mobile, so I'm going to remove this later. I should have changed that to a different subdirectory. But I really want when I'm building something out, I want to have where I can actually create the artifacts and build this out. So if you're doing the web-based, you're going to lose that. You'll have the skill when you're done, but you're not going to have all of the artifacts that you've created. So you're going to want to use the desktop, either chat, Cowork, or code. So right now I'm using Cowork, and then it's going to be now asking me for more information. Um, but even for a broad one like this, how do I get my location? It's already beginning to figure this out. It will write code so the code can run and give the skill the information about the location. So even when you have something which is very code heavy like this, it's going to write code so it can give to the skill the information that it needs to do its work. And we'll continue this one in just a moment. You're driving right now, so we'll probably return to this one after you are where you are headed. Other questions or ideas about skills to share? What other ideas do people have about skills that they would like to create or have created?
Jesse, can we, I'm doing this, redesigning this class for the fall. And I want my students to build something, and they're gonna build a little bus shelter, and depending on how many people there are in the bus shelter, or if they have some kind of mobility issue, there should be some signals that come out. Lights, let's say, flashing for the bus to come in and be ready for. Like, is that something that could be done through this, just coding wise, and then attaching it to a prototype? Or is this only just, like, how would those two interfaces work together, prototype and this type of AI coding?
Perfect. So here's the interesting thing. First of all, you have your full course information, right? So absolutely what I would do is I would say, all right, you can make a copy of it if you want to sort of safeguard everything you've done before, but I usually just allow it permission to do what it needs to do. Choose your subdirectory and then begin brainstorming. So you don't immediately have to build the skill. You can actually come up with ideas and say, hey, given the course objectives, here's what I'm kind of thinking about. Help me brainstorm through. These are multimodal models, though, right? So you could build a skill which is meant to actually critique a design, right? I mean, you could have them go and take pictures of bus stops as they currently exist and maybe do an assessment. You did say bus stop, right? Yeah. So you could take a picture of a bus stop and say, all right, now here are the criteria that we're interested in: accessibility, mobility, safety, weather, however you want to do that. Um, so take a picture, give an assessment, what alterations would need to be made here, you know. So it's multimodal, both in terms of taking, image. One of my favorite skills that I've written was for Gemini and was for video. And so we were working with the U.S. I'm sorry, with the Vanderbilt women's soccer coach, and they wanted to be able to analyze video of different plays for practices. And so what we had to do, though, is we had to come up with skills that would define what particular moves were and what they were looking for, right? So we wrote the skills, and then we gave the skill the video and said, assess it based on these requirements. And so it was able to look at the video and say, so player number 21, you enter the box about 2 seconds early because the best position as defined in the skill is the following. So it's very, very flexible. How many folks do we have here that have to deal with resumes or with CVs? It, Adam, is this an enjoyable endeavor, having to update your CV and modify the format for various granting agencies?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, that was sarcasm. So let me show you a skill that I have. And I believe that I have it right here. So in the desktop, remember the way that we get to skills is we click customize, and then you can click create new skills. And then you can see all the skills that are created here. Oh, and I guess I never loaded it up here. Okay. So one skill that I have that I still have to load up here is a CV skill, but I'll pull that up in a moment. Here's another skill. And you might remember that I mentioned this to you all at the very beginning. Um, lecture recording to lecture notes skill. So do you all find it useful to have the notes? How many people have gone to the recordings and to the notes that we have for each of the days? And Gina, so okay, great. Lori, how about you? How are they? Do you like them?
I mostly watch the videos. Um, so
Okay, well, that's
I don't,
fine. That's
you
okay.
know, didn't
How
look
many
at all
people
the notes
are?
combined.
Yeah, how many people are looking at the notes? Give me a thumbs up if you're okay. Gina, so tell me about the notes. How are they?
They're okay. They're general. It feels like AI has summed up what's going on.
Hmm.
It does go through a lot of details, but I feel like the videos have more of, I guess, the human feel of asking and answering questions than, but I mean, the prompts were there. They tell you everything that was in the video.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. It is AI generated, but let's fix it because if it's saying it's not enough detail, we can fix it. Here's the skill. So the main thing about the skill is that it is pulling up the PowerPoint presentations, and it's also when it's and so it's actually checking when I mention something, it goes to see if I say, hey, if you'll notice, it'll go to the slide deck and you'll notice it pulls the slide deck and puts the slide into the Markdown file so you can see what it is. So that's a nice improvement. And the other thing is, if that doesn't match, then it will go to the video, grab a frame. And so if I'm sharing my screen, it'll show the screen. And so it can at least have the right content there. So that's all here in a skill. And the skill I did create using Claude Code because I needed it to be handling, heavy duty processing of the frames. So, and then this is the skill. All right. So that's not bad. I created this in March 6th. So this is a little while ago. Let's go ahead and update this. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to, I'm going to say, I want to improve my uh, lecture lecture recording to lecture notes using Skill Creator. And tell me your critique. The notes seem AI generated and too general.
Yeah.
What else?
Um,
You
I
won't hurt
wish
my
it
feelings.
would point me to the video where like things were like, let's assume I'm going through the notes and I want more on that particular section from the video. So if it could point where each slide or each portion of the video was like date wise or time wise,
Yeah.
that would be helpful to kind of skip through to the important things, I guess.
Ooh, I love this. And follow-up skill, when we post this on YouTube, we'll do that pre-processing. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do heavy processing and actually then create the links like you can do. And now we don't have to buy specialized software for this, right? This is going to like, hey, skill, write the code to do this thing and then upload. That's a great idea to point the timestamp of the video where to find the information for the topic. Fantastic. What else? Anybody else have any other improvements that you'd like to have in the notes? All right, let's go ahead and let's kick this off. Oh, by the way, how long do you think it would take me once I've improved the skill to go back and to totally redo all the notes for the that are up there right now? I give that to the agent. I ask it to reprocess and to redo and to re-upload. So really for me, it's a matter of maybe a few minutes to redo and to take Gina your suggestions and make them real for all the prior recordings. So this is right. This is insane that we can actually go back and redo and improve like this. So how should, okay, you all tell me, how should they should be section headers and inline anchors? Should it just be, ooh, clickable links to the video? Shall we try for, I don't know if this will work. I'm going to say try clickable links, but also have the time value in the text. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, so that's one. All right, Gina, tell me, what's wrong with the notes?
I guess generic framing language. I'm trying to think. I don't know if somebody else wants to pitch in on
Yeah,
this.
somebody else pitch in. Let's improve this for everybody
Well,
going forward.
I guess when I was looking at it, to if I missed a class, I felt like I needed to watch the whole video to understand everything. Um, but if I think the notes were really good for reviewing class, but not as helpful if I missed a class. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Watch all the video, and then the notes would be good for a review. But I couldn't just read the notes. So no, this is, this is a powerful general purpose agent. So like you can pose this problem and say, the voice wasn't quite right. It's not giving me enough information. All right. And then final question. Do you have a sample lecture notes from a previous run that I can use as a test case? Ooh. I'm going to say no, just iterate. Because I haven't improved on these, right? Sample of, oh, so I do have AI summer repo. Yes. All right. So now
Could
you
we
can
have
pull up.
it?
Go ahead.
Thank you. What if we had a sort of like an application area at the
Yeah.
bottom of the notes or at the end of the notes rather, so that it could have suggestions for ways that we could apply what was discussed that day in the class. And it would be
Ooh.
something short so that it could be done just, within a couple of days, since there are usually a couple of days between classes.
I love that. Uh,
I love teaching and I love seeing the aha moment in someone's eyes. And I'm thinking, what if we could create these little examples, and then someone could at home or on the bus or at Barnes and Noble, they say, aha, I've got it.
and I'm putting in here exactly what you just said to understand what we did in class. Have suggestions on take-home assignments. Put this at the bottom. Of each day's notes. Okay, great. So here the idea is that skills are not set, right? Skills are meant to be updated as you get feedback. So think about this. You create a skill and you actually ask your students to give you feedback, right? How is this working? Is this enough information? Just like we did now, but imagine that you've given this as a survey to all of your students. And now they fill in that survey. This is not to be, I loved it. I didn't love it. This is not quantitative feedback. This is qualitative critique. Show me. You can take all of that and then you can say, all right, I like what they're saying about the improvements. Take this and summarize this. Now you could say, I've gotten this feedback on this particular document that I've creating, the notes, the way I'm presenting, the problems that I have. Go and improve this skill based on the student's feedback. You can iterate as much as you want and then actually test and see whether it's improved for you. This is a way of taking student feedback or any feedback that you have and immediately turning it into and taking action on it. So here we go. Here, let me draft the improved skill. Oh, and I also picked up the take-home assignment. Let me write the new skill.md. Key changes: standalone notes principle, anti-patterns for generic AI framing, timestamp linking format, and take-home assignments at the bottom. Your first skill may not be great. It's probably going to be not bad, but you're going to be able to iterate. Let's let this keep on working. We'll take a look and see what it does. What other ideas for you do you have for skills? We're going to take a break for in just a moment for 5 minutes. We're going to and we're going to open up rooms after that for you all actually to brainstorm together and actually create a skill. Decide what surface you want to create the skill on. Have someone actually create a skill. You need to do this pretty early, but we're going to have about 15 minutes for you to actually go and create and then critique and see if you can improve that skill. Okay. What other ideas do you have to help people brainstorm about what skills they can create?
Jesse, can I ask you, this is Adam, can I ask you about the CV
Yes.
example?
As a matter of fact,
Because
yeah.
it's, it seems challenging because CVs draw information from lots of different sources, and that's
Yes.
part of what makes it annoying and time consuming. So I'm guessing that you've got some ideas, knowledge of, APIs that would
Yes.
make it work. But
Yes.
can you just talk about that for 30 seconds?
No, absolutely. And the other skill is still working, right? So absolutely we can do this. Let me show you what the skill MD is. So Sarah, it's a little bit small and I apologize for this, but remember skills are subdirectories that have at the top level a skill.md and then stuff underneath. So here's the Vanderbilt CV skill. Here's the skill MD that we're going to look at. It has scripts, evals, assets, and references underneath. Let's take a look at the skill. So Vanderbilt CV generated as Vanderbilt University faculty CV and the provost required standardized docx format. All right, so build CVs. And I want to have these things. I want the docx, I want a markdown version of it, and a PDF version of it. Phase one, parse the user's source materials and produce a structured JSON file. So what this is in that subdirectory, I drop everything. I drop appointments that I've had. If I've done service, I just take that appointment, drop that appointment in. So it describes who I met with, what the service was that I was doing. I get an email from somebody that says, hey, our paper got published. I drop it in. If I've done, anything, I just dump everything in there. My plan in the future is actually to give it access to Outlook so it can go through and find those things for me. But right now, it's raw information, papers that have been published again, or emails about them, projects that I've done, extra things that I've done, just all go in there because and in the reference I have a CV schema that we can also look at as well, which describes the kinds of information that would go into that. So let's say, oh, it's not under there. References. Okay, so here's the schema, and it designed this for me, but I told it what I needed to have. So here is all the different parts, the education, the degree, the institution. So these are all the parts. What was the award? What was the award name that I've gotten? The chapters I've written. So this broke apart everything that's in a CV, and it's going to take all that information and first put it into this structured format for me. And the models are really good at that. So they're good at structuring unstructured information. And this turned out to be the key. what course were you teaching? When did you teach it? The important thing was to have this defined first. And so that's what this is doing. So the first thing is it takes that and then it runs a generation script, taking that schema, taking that information, and then creating the different things from it. This worked really well. I found that I had no mistakes when I created this because it was creating it from the structured format. Here's the schema, gather and parse the materials, build the JSON, make sure everything is ready to go, verify the output, make sure that everything that was I dumped in the subdirectory was listed in the CV. So that's how I did it. And this way, I can even one of the things I drop into the resources is this narrative that I gave about kind of the things that I did this year. Stream of consciousness, here's what I did. I did this service. It doesn't really count, but I do AI Fridays and I meet with faculty. There were 3 grants that I assisted with. I'm not on the grants, but here's what I recall about them and the schools that they came from. Now all of that gets formatted and then put into the CV for me. Is that enough sort of information to get you started? And I will absolutely be sharing this.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. All right. Question for you all. It's gone through, it's created the skill. So here it's reframed for the audience. The old skill aimed for polished tutorial style markdown notes. The new skill aims for notes that replace the video for someone who missed class. This is stated upfront and restated. The bar is no longer, is this a good summary, but could a reader skip the video and still know the material? Agents are informed intelligences. So we get to do things like this. Your bar is now, can you read and understand and not have to watch the video? That's actually something we can ask for the model to do. Banned the AI narration voice. So this is the anti-pattern. So look for this and ban it. If it sounds AI generated, don't do that. Timestamps on section headings, demos, quotes, and QA. So it gives us a format where it could be, and it says clickable link. I don't know if that's going to work or not. It's worth a shot. Take home assignments at the section at the bottom of every note. Okay, how do we want to test the new skill? What do you all think?
Chrissy, how long does it take to do this for one video?
It takes a couple of minutes. I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? I'm going to just say install now, and we'll test, and we'll, I'm going to say, let's redo, we're on week 3. Are we on week 3? We're on week 3. Let's redo week 2, day 2 with the new skill. And I'll save both so we can compare, so I can compare, save both so I can compare. Does this sound like a good plan? Okay. We're going to kick it off. We're going to let it run. Has another question. Where should the final improved skill be? I'm gonna say keep the bundle replacement. Yeah, so I'm gonna do both. Okay. Okay, we're gonna let it do its thing. Oh, did I not point it to the oh, I maybe I didn't open up to that folder. Okay, so interesting. So it knew it didn't have it. So it asked for the proper subdirectory, and this is going to be, oh, that's right, because it's all the way in here, AI Summer 2026. Okay, great. So now it can find that it's going to be able to go in and to do that. I'm going to leave this running so you can actually watch it running, but we're going to take a 5-minute break right now, quick bio break. We're going to come back and we're going to each be going to breakout rooms in a little bit to make new skills, but you can stick around and watch this run as well. But we'll be back at 12:18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18 All right, folks, welcome back. So this has been uh, given the full path. So it found the source, it found the VTT, the MP4 chat transcript file. It wanted to have a link to the Zoom share because it a requirement that it's supposed to put that in the text as well. So we're going to let it keep on doing it, and then we're gonna go and take a look and see how that is. So it's spawning a subagent to run the new skill on the week 2, day 2 source. And we'll see how. So if you haven't already, go ahead and go to the I'll put a link to the repo. Actually, Miranda, if you're there, could you put a link to the repo for the and ask people? We can ask people to go and take a look and see what's there already, and then we'll compare it.
Yes, I did put one in about 10 minutes ago, but I can.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Oh, my chat got covered. Okay, good. All right, folks. So we're going to allow this to keep on working. This is a link to the GitHub repo, and you can go and take a look and see what the week 2, day 2 notes look like. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to see what what the revised notes look like here. But we're going to give it a little bit more time to run. So it's running the skills right now. So it's going through. It does have to process the video. So it usually does take a couple of minutes to do that. But we'll return to this. So I'd like for us to create breakout rooms now. So here's the task. Be thinking of a skill that you would like to create, share it with the group, and actually go ahead and kick off skill creator skill and begin to create that. You could also take something you've created previously to update it. So you saw how we're in the process right now of updating our lecture to lecture notes skill. So keep in mind that you can do that as well. What questions do you have before we break people up into the breakout rooms to discuss building of a skill? Okay. And Miranda, do I need Adam? Did you have a question or a suggestion? Okay, great. Miranda, can you create the breakout rooms, or should I?
I am creating them right now.
Excellent. Okay, very, very good. I'll remind you, if you would please, when you go into the breakout rooms, go ahead and show your video, share your video. Have someone in the room be responsible for running and sharing their screen to actually run the skill and work on the skill. But decide amongst yourself what skill you'd like to go after. Remember, it's especially valuable if you do have additional information. So if you're writing a skill around a particular class, go ahead and go to that subdirectory where you have all that class information. You have you have you have the syllabus, you have the class materials, class outline, learning outcomes, or if you're creating a more technical skill, that context, which is in the subdirectory where you're building the skill, is going to be critical and results in much better product, much, much faster.
All right, I can go ahead and open them if we're ready.
All right, and we're going to do a full 15 minutes, but you'll still have to decide pretty early. You see, this is kind of a heavy duty skill. You want to get started early on the skills. Any final questions, you're going to go chat with the folks in there, come up with, elect somebody who's going to be building the skill, and you help them answer questions and build and evaluate the skill together. We good? Okay. All right, excellent. Go ahead and open up the rooms.
All right, and you should be able to move yourself around if for whatever reason everyone in your group leaves, or there's not enough people. Just let us know if you have issues with that. But I did try to keep it to a good size.
Fantastic. And anybody who's left here in the main room, if you're stuck here in the main room, let us know. We'll see if we can put you into a room. All right, I'm going to go off video for just a moment.
Hi, Miranda. I had to leave the breakout room to give permission for sharing. Can you put me back in 4, please?
Yes. You should be able to select. Oh, nope, it unassigned you. Okay, 4.
4, yes.
All right. You
Thank you.
should be there now.
Thanks.
And anyone else that's still in the main room, if you need to go to a breakout room and you're having trouble, just let me know and I can send you into one.
Hey there, Jesse. Do you need to be brought back into a room?
No, I actually skipped the rooms. I was just coming back because I thought you guys would be finishing up about now.
Yeah, we should be finishing up about right now. And Miranda, is it about time? Did you put a timer on these?
Oops, sorry, my mic was far away. I did not put a timer on them. I just,
Okay.
wow, the time passed very fast. I can close them.
I would say, yeah, maybe send a quick broadcast and say, hey, we're closing up the rooms.
All right.
Okay, right.
Okay, they should close in a minute.
Okay, great. Perfect. Welcome back. We'll start seeing people pop back in. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So, um, looks like everybody is back now. All right. So, who would like to share first what the skill was that they worked on in the room?
I can.
Great.
Don't expect rocket science here, but I will. All right, let me go to the share. Now, I want to share the whole thing. Hold on. Share. Um, if I want to share, do I share the desktop?
Yeah, that's kind of the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Okay, so here I am in the desktop. And then I'm going to move you down and move this thing. And here we are. Now, can you see? Oh, I got to close
Yes.
that up. Okay, hold
Great.
on. Hold on. Sorry. Everything is open here. It gets messy, but it's fun. Okay. So I said use the skill created to analyze monthly data to progress and provide gap analysis for types of interactions in that time and overall for the school year.
Great.
So it asked me all the questions about what my monthly data looks like and what types of interactions. And I said categories per the daily log form. Look at the gap analysis and give me both the Excel and the workbook and the Excel and the doc, and it gave me both. So it asked me for these forms, which I don't have on hand right now. So I said, just build a generic.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
should be from July to June. Skip testing, just build it. So look, it used 18 tools. It went through all of this stuff, came up with this, packaged successfully, came up with the Python codes with everything. I don't have to know how to do any of that. And I installed the skill and we looked at the workbook and the report from the fake data, and it looks
Yes.
fabulous.
Great.
It looks fabulous.
Great. Great. And now what you can do is you can absolutely pull up actual data that you have. You didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
share that data, which might be sensitive with
Mm-hmm.
Claude. So now you just run
Right.
it. Now, when you run the skill, it may send some things off. So you just want to be careful about student names and other things like that. But that's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Who else would like to share what you did in your rooms?
I guess I could share.
Great.
We talked a lot today. But let me share my screen. So we decided to build this skill that I had, asked you about earlier to assess the shelter, the bus shelter.
Cool.
And we just gave it a small prompt. So I want to build a skill that assesses how good a smart bus shelter is in a class I teach. And I asked it to look up similar projects to see if they have a rubric associated with them because I don't have a rubric yet. I want the shelter to have sensors to find clients with mobility challenges and usability. And so it worked quite a bit. It did a lot of research on accessibility and usability, engineering rigor, technical rigor. It wrote the skill and then it created test cases. So there were three fictional submissions spanning from strong, average, and weak. It went through the rubric. It was an odd rubric in my opinion, so that would need to be fixed, I guess. And these were the grades for the three teams that put up their assignments. And then it said something here like Blue Jay scoring may be harsher than what you want. The rubric as written heavily penalizes missing ADA dimensions, etc. And then the width skill outputs are consistent and reference specific ADA numbers. So I guess it's giving me feedback on how it wrote it that I could make this better. It did also give me all the sources it used. I asked it to show me Aura's submission. It only showed me the assessment itself. So kind of what the assessment looked like with the rubric. So I don't know what that team, like fake team submission is yet. But I will also notice is I've used 90% of my session limit just creating that one tool.
Creating skills are one of the most heavy things that you can do because it's creating a lot of tools, especially if you're asking it for research. So yes, you'll go through usage quite quickly with it. So especially if you're doing something right before a class, I wouldn't do it right before class, not unless you've gone to the higher usage levels. Because behind the scenes, if you click on each of those to see what's been happening underneath the scenes, and keep in mind, it's doing things like when it's doing the assessment of the three proposals, and it does the three proposals with a skill and the three proposals without skills. When it's running without skills, it's doing a lot more work. So, and that's like you were running 6 agents in parallel, right? So, lot of tokens to generate and then to test as well. Absolutely. But it sounds like you're in the neighborhood.
Better than nothing, better than we were this morning.
Better than you were this morning. And then, of course, and you can give it, of course, you can get a feedback. And of course, if you had your syllabus and you could sort of set and level set and say, these are first year undergraduates, second year undergraduates, something along that line. The course goal is this, not ADA compliance. These aren't engineers, these aren't, right? So pitch it like this. So all of those are things that you can do to guide a little bit more. And sometimes even just having that broad context in that same subdirectory steers it a lot because that's exactly what happens. It'll sort of go down a way, it'll build the thing. You're like, no, but all is not lost. You just have to wait till your usage resets for later on in the day. Fantastic. All right, we're almost at time. Let me share with you what happened with ours, and we can actually even take a look at it. So here, let's go ahead and share my portion of the screen again. So here it needed the path to exactly where all the materials was where they were, and so it found this, but it was taking a long time to run and to process that file again, which it did not take that long before. So it did this, it used a tool, it spawned the sub agent. And at this point, it's not showing it because I actually sent it to the main agent, it sent to the sub agent. I said, what's taking so long? This is taking a lot longer than the previous one. And it said, fair criticism, 10.5 minutes and 200,000 tokens is too slow. This sometimes can happen, especially when you're working in Cowork. It will try to solve problems using the agent first. In Claude Code, it will try to write code to solve problems first, In Cowork, it tries to solve just using the AI, but in this case, it really needed to have written code. So it went through, it took a full 10 minutes before it got done. But then when I said, hey, this is taking a long time, it said, okay, the new notes are saved on the speed. You're right about that nothing about timestamps is so I put it, hey, the VTT has timestamps. I know this. What's going on? Then it checked to see what ate the time, reading the VTT, parsing it. It did all the parsing directly in the AI. So rather than writing code to say, oh, here are the sections because I know how to read a VTT, that's just the Zoom format for the transcript. It read it all in and then it parsed it out. Took forever. So it said, yeah, I really should have just done a regex. Claude Code would have done that right away. So maybe what I should have said is, hey, do this, but be sure to do it efficiently, write code. Um, so here's the skill. It did the work. And it said, hey, do you want me to add those scripts before we do anything more? But here's the examples. Let's go ahead and take a look at uh, the day two. We're going to show in folder. So here's the modified version 2 of the notes. Now you can up the notes on your own machine. You had the link to it. This is what version 2 of the notes looks like. So here are the new notes. So much more conversation at the very beginning. What's happening in the recordings. So it gave an overview before you get into it. That's kind of nice. It spends more time on the key concepts, gives more context for each of the key concepts. And then notice it does the timestamps here. Timestamps are not working yet. So it tries to point it to the Zoom recording, which is not working. So have to go back and say, hey, that's not working. Don't put hyperlinks in there because it probably won't work. I'll wait and do that until we have Zoom. I'm sorry, until we have YouTube. And then I might redo that. But now it does have the timestamp. So now you can tell exactly where you go in the video recording to figure out where those concepts are. It also, I noticed that the wording really is different. You all can decide on your own whether the wording is better, but it seems more conversational. It's less summary-like. It's still doing the quote thing. I don't know if I like that, but I might be able to iterate on that again. Let's see how well it did on the assignments at the very bottom. So we'll go to the bottom and we'll say, oh, so here are, yes, so now it has assignments. I like these. Take on assignments. Build the track Claude development skill end to end in your own context. So go and create a new one. Assignment 2, pick the right surface for a real skill you actually need. Assignment 3, draft a one-page model card for an AI system you or your team deploys. These are not bad. Run the agree disagree warm up with your own team. So this is pulling out the idea that Sarah had about the agree disagree, and then stretch, build a personalized what AI policy levers can I pull at work skill. So all of that just from feedback from you to iterate. So keep this in mind. You can take feedback and iterate the skills, improve them. Doesn't have to be your own feedback, can be feedback from your students as well if you're teaching in a classroom. All right, we're at the end of the time. Final questions before we close up when we move over to office hours. What questions, closing questions do you have?
So along the lines of sort of debugging and improving, if the agent doesn't do what you want, you just tell it, hey, you missed this, this, and this, and
Yes.
then it just refocuses. Okay.
There's another thing you can do, which is a loop, and there's another one which is called goal. And this is called a slash goal. If you have a goal that's well stated, right? Where you know what the outcome ought to look like. So, for example, if I said, I want this readable by seventh graders, right? And here are the requirements for it. You can put it on a loop with a goal and say, keep on drafting that skill and running the tests until you meet the goal. So you can automate that, but it has to be a very clear goal that Claude itself could assess and judge. But if you have that, then you can turn any kind of improvement of code, skill, anything into an improvement loop so long as that judgment is clear. That's a powerful,
So,
it's a powerful design.
so if I had a file that was exactly what I want the output to look like, given the input,
Yeah,
I could put that in a goal and
go
just
goal loop
have
and say,
it goal loop, and it would just iterate
keep
until it
working at
gets
it.
it. Okay,
Exactly. It'll burn through tokens, right? So,
yeah,
but it will iterate until it runs out of tokens or it gets there. Absolutely.
great. Thank
All
you.
right, folks, we're at the end of the time. I invite you to stick around for office hours. Otherwise, thank you very much for all of your work and attention. So a couple of things here. We are now going to be moving into cohorts. So we'll be sending out an email about this just to let you know. But on Thursday, we will not have a regular session. We're going to reserve the time. But we'll be creating cohorts. So we'll join in the Zoom. We'll just get it started. We're going to break out into cohort rooms. We'll have some instructions in the email about exactly what that's going to look like. Just to let you know, the cohort which is going to be creating classes, creating a syllabi, creating course materials, especially for the Generative AI Master's Program and for the Generative AI Minor. We're going to start that on Tuesday, not on Thursday, but the other cohort will start on Thursday. But we'll send out an email with more instructions about that. But we are now at the end of our regular instruction for AI Summer. So a round of applause for you. You've gone through the entire AI Summer. Congratulations. Great job. I'd like to thank you all for all of your work and all of your attention over the AI summer, and I look forward to seeing what you all create in our cohort breakout sessions. All right, stick around if you'd like to for office hours. All right, see you all. Thank you. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Mirabelle. Thank you, Lori. Excellent. What questions do you all have? Yes, Susan.
I guess my question is about the cohorts that were created. I don't remember which one I signed up for, and given your talk about the syllabi and the courses and so forth, I'm not sure that I was in the right one. So how do we know?
Let's see. Actually, you're going to be able to self-select when we
Oh,
do that.
okay.
Although on Thursday, it's just going to be just the you can come here if you want to work with folks. I'm going to have to go back and figure out Marina, what was I know I remember the cohort that we had for the course creation. What was the other cohort?
The other one is just general projects. So
There we
it's
go.
self-selected. So if you're
Yeah.
interested in generating coursework, you'll just join the Zoom for generating course or for doing coursework stuff. If you're interested in building out a solution, then you'll join the Zoom link for the people who want to do solutions. But we haven't like assigned anyone or you didn't tell us which one you wanted. It's just self-selected.
Okay. Thank you.
And the way we'll do that is we'll open up on Thursday, and then we'll ask you to prepend your name with the group that you would like to be in.
Okay.
I
And then
think
we'll just
what
create.
might be easier is just
Sure.
let them select it, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine too. Oh yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, we'll have to but we'll have to ask them for the for which ones they want to have because we might have multiples. In other words, do we like 15 people want to be in the same one, or do they want to break up a little bit? We can handle it.
Got
We'll
it.
handle it. This is the first
We'll
time that we've
talk
done, so we
about
got to
it.
figure out we got to figure out exactly how we want to do it. We know the one for the generative AI master's program in the minor, but the other one we'll figure out.
Yeah. Okay.
What
By
questions?
Thursday, we'll know what
By
we're doing.
Thursday, we'll know what we're doing. Great. What questions do you have?
Hi, can I ask where should I go to learn about the goal loop? Like if I wanted to implement that, is there a place that explains it.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and see if I can find a resource for you real quickly. Um, yeah, here we go. Yeah, so it is in Claude Docs now. I'm just going to put
Okay.
this into chat, but I'm going to see if I can find where they announce it to, because often when they announce, they have like better overview of what it is. So I'll see if I can
Nice. Okay.
find it. Oh yeah, and actually this is part of a larger one, which was Claude Code for Small Business. That was part of it as well. Is that right? No, no, no. Yeah, so they announce these things sort of in different places. Like one of them is they announce it on X, and so that looks like where they announce it, but the documentation does cover it. The other really funny place where you find good content of things as they come out and people discover things and people use things is, heaven help me, TikTok. So there are a number of people on TikTok that will release this, which means, and so I have to go on TikTok to do this, which means I get sucked into TikTok on a regular basis, but it's still worth it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. What other questions do you have?
Yes, is managing token consumption for a $20 Claude plan just trial and error, or are there tools to help you or magic to help you somehow achieve what you're doing?
There's some best practices. One thing is, if you have a good skill which leverages code well, that will in the future help you reduce token use. Because then things will happen I have a skill now for creating Markdown documents out of PDFs. And what the skill does is it loads up Microsoft's Markdown. So rather than the it reading in the entire PDF and then writing out the AI reading the PDF and then writing out um, the markdown, which it could do. That's one way to do it, but burns through tokens. Instead, when I say, hey, I want to turn this PDF document into markdown, it doesn't load it up. It says, oh, I have a skill for that. Let me find this. Let me run the code, which is mark it down PDF, right? And then it handles it completely without using any tokens or minimal tokens, like 20, right? Versus 100,000. So once you have skills and you identify where you can solve things with code rather than just having it through brute force, the AI doing it for you, that reduces that reduces tokens consumption down the line. But in terms of managing like Azure solving a problem, that's harder because tokens are thought for the models, right? When it's doing reasoning, it's running through tokens. So creating skills, solving problems, especially when you're sort of brainstorming, those just take tokens, and not an easy way around that. But if you have a repeatable process that's burning up tokens, that's where you really need to look at it and build a skill to fix that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw that it was taking 10 minutes to modify that to come up with the notes for that, I was like, oh, this is not good. And indeed, it was burning through 200,000 tokens just to do one lecture. I was like, nope, there's a more efficient way to do this. Come up with it. And it's funny, one way that I know that something is taking a long time to run. I have an audible signal if it's doing the right thing. And that audible signal is if it's a long running process, if the fan on my laptop goes on, then I know that it's running code locally on my laptop and it's probably okay. That means it's running code locally and the AI is just sitting there waiting. So it's kind of funny. But in Claude Code, you can actually watch it and you'll notice that you might have noticed it said how many tokens did it send up, how many tokens did it send down. That's another way that you know, but you don't really have that in Cowork, right? It's a little bit hidden. So great question. Other questions?
The only question I really have right now, really around the master's program you were talking
Yes.
about last week or the week before, because I'm 50-50 trying to get an application in for the data science master's before it closes in
Oh,
June.
yes.
Or what the use case, what
Yeah.
the utility between the two is.
Got it. Okay. So way to think about this is the AI Masters program is going to be for regardless of background and skills, right? And so that is really meant to discuss, you know, what we're talking about here, but actually adoption within an organization, getting much more into solving the problems with Claude Code, but it is not meant to be to provide training for necessarily for we will be creating solutions, but it doesn't require coding background in order to do those. Data Science Master's program is going to be is also going to cover AI, not quite in as much depth, but with an eye towards solving analytical or machine learning or data questions, right? So using certainly covering AI, theoretical AI, absolutely getting that. But then what are the applications of AI to build solutions, right? So one is going to be technological, requiring programming, requires some math, some statistics. If you don't have it, we do provide support in that. The other being non-technical, but solving organizational problems and task problems and being very conversant in the role of AI in an organization. So that's what it looks like between the two. I would go ahead and put in one for data science because, get it in there, and then when the AI Masters becomes available, which should be any day now, you could also put one in for that, and then you can decide.
Awesome. Awesome.
Also,
And
something to note is that the AI Masters is online and the Data Science Masters, it's in person.
Yep. Thank you, Miranda.
fortunately, right across the street from my office.
Right, exactly. So you're right there.
Do either have any kind of a security conversation?
There is a class later in the AI Masters program which is around security. So there's one course, 1.5 credit course, but you could also take that course in the Data Science Masters program as an elective. So that's a possibility too.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. And VJ, you mentioned creating an agent with Gemini with a project. Would you go over that? Okay. Yes. Okay. So I can show that very quickly. Absolutely, Dr. Voss. See you. Um, all right. So let me go and pull up location. Let's see if I can get this real quickly. And feel free to ask another question while I'm looking for this. And actually, so VJ, I'm actually looking for this right now, but essentially what it was, so I had it research uh, Google Gemini enterprise agents. And so what I had it do was to create a skill that would take a skill and draft for me as an equivalent uh, Gemini agent, which would have as many of those capabilities as possible. And it was meant to be cut and pasted into Gemini Enterprise the skill builder application to build a skill to carry out this work. So it was very meta, right? Build the skill, test it here, have it write for me a prompt which would run in Gemini Enterprise to create the agent. So that was the overview. It was still in Claude Code. Yeah. No, because there's no good equivalent in the Gemini Enterprise that can do that. And so I did it in Claude Code and then transported it over there. Excellent. Other questions?
I mean, I know we're kind of done with the AI summer, coursework part. In the cohorts, are we going to explore a little bit more of the skill and agent development pipeline, for lack of a better word, as a more formal process?
That not necessarily with the cohorts. That's going to be very much more independent.
Now,
So yeah.
is there kind of a, I don't want to say I'm familiar with enough, programming development, processes with acronyms and very formal ways of doing things. Is there something like that kind of being built out from a skills, from an agentic outputs or coding point of view? Or is everyone kind of figuring out what they like and we're going to wait for it to coalesce later?
It is a very strange space right now, right? Because the space of addressable problems that are well addressed and have been well researched in code is, sort of a defined area. And when you are trying to create a skill which fits into that area, that's where I would like be creating the skill in Claude Code, and I would use a more formal approach, right? This is mostly a coding problem, but I need a skill that would actually expose this. So maybe I'd even write the software first and say, I've written this thing, and then I might put a skill on top of that. And so I have this robust interface. Or I might write the skill and the code at the same time in Claude Code, but follow best practices as I'm coding. But then you have this outside space, which is not really code, right? And then that doesn't, the processes that we had over here don't map over here. So we're in this weird space where we probably need to come up with a rigorous approach which can address all of this wide space, both that which is code and that which is not code, but is still solvable by an AI.
Yeah.
And no, we don't have a great approach for that right now.
Yeah.
We don't even have a good vocabulary for it right now. That's why I talk about that's the point of the masters, is to actually give people the skills in the background, because we have to describe everything about it, so they have an understanding of how to make robust skills and how to talk to folks and to figure out what can be turned into code and made safe for company-wide deployment versus that which must remain local, and what's the dividing line and what that looks like. And Vijay, you had a question about also, is Gen AI a subset? And then Miranda, you answered it right. So you can take some electives, but yeah, Gen AI is a different beast from. Think about all the different possible uses for AI broadly now. Some of those involve analytics, but only a subset. You might actually be looking to formalize processes. You might be looking to solve problems just on your own. You might be looking to create new capabilities and agents. Those may not even be of a concern to data science, which is more about a formalized way of using data to answer questions. Great question.
Kind of rolling back into the development methodology, I've seen a lot of demos of like low code or no code agent flow builders.
Yeah.
Are we kind of getting towards a standard for that? I think I remember something like that being in the Claude desktop experience, but I don't see it anymore. I don't know if they pulled it out or changed the way it worked, but of being able to—
We got away from it. Yeah.
Being able to define, that there's a part of my application for the fuzzy definition of the word that needs to be programmatic, and some of it needs to have AI driven features, And then some of it has to have programmatic aspects inside AI features, but how we're going to define and map that out in a way that's still, controllable, auditable.
That's right. So I refer to these as agents 1.0, and agents 1.0, the ones that, or you figure out the orchestration, you figure out the flow, so you do that, and those are really good for highly repeatable processes that look very much like code, right? But you need to have a little bit of intelligence at certain points in that for it to work. Agents 2.0 is meant to be very flexible. We have no idea what the orchestration is. You call up a skill, it may decide that there needs to be a second skill because, yeah, you asked for a PowerPoint, but you also have a brand. So it pulls up the brand and it pulls up the PowerPoint, or it pulls up, I might have a skill where for my undergraduate class, I want to have a different voice that I use. So I might have like my undergraduate notes voice. Well, that would be called, in addition to my lecture notes to lecture, my lecture to lecture notes. And so now it does something new. Well, that agent didn't exist before, right? It was spun up when I asked it to take on that task. So these are dynamic, they exist for some period of time and then they go away. So here in Agents 2.0, you're really talking about skills, right? And you're talking that's the design of that. But maybe you want to harden it. And so now you have a process which is going to take recordings for everybody at the university, and on Tuesday, it's going to do notes for everybody. Well, that's a different thing. So the trick is now take these skills, take this process, apply a formalization to it. And so now we turn this back into an agent 1.0, so it becomes a repeatable process where as much as code as possible. Here, the point is not flexibility, right? Here it is robustness and repeatability.
Yeah.
So that is sort of engineering, and so you make it more of this thing. That's why you don't see it. But especially with like the low code stuff, I don't think you're going to see the low code stuff anymore. Uh, the low code stuff is going to be replaced by, like I was just talking about with Gemini. Here's my skills. Here's the problem that I'm solving. Turn this into an agent 1.0, which will run in the older Gemini enterprise, right? So that's generate the prompt, which will then create, but not force me to go through the low code agent connected to this one. Here's the description. I don't want to have to do that. I want to describe what needs to be done, and I can get as much detail as necessary. Gemini, you create the agent and spin it up.
Yeah. Or even use that old low code flow chart, even just for visibility, as far as
You
we're
could.
logging as we go. But
Right.
I would say kind of thing, as you're saying, it's something along the order of building out agents as sets of skills to be dynamically operated in the moment, but with something like a super temperature on top of
Sure.
that of how much leeway do you want to give the agent at time of execution, and
Yes.
even do something like microsec, like have it build and burn down agents as it goes, so they don't deviate too far. No, really interesting. I think we're going to see a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Right. And it's not even an either or, right? Yeah, it can be a little bit like one of the steps in an orchestrated flow of agents might be, okay, now you just figure it out. So, all right, now at this point, you trigger, everything's ready. You trigger a general purpose agent to come up with a plan and to solve this because I know how to do the pre-processing, but at this point, it requires a lot more intelligence and flexibility. Then we go back to, so it's a really interesting time.
Or even as something like error handling. If something
Yeah.
has gone through a set of rigid or more rigid programmatic and AI steps and been kicked out by all of them, drop into an else statement that is, hey, Opus, figure out what this input's supposed to be.
Exactly. And that's why I like putting agents, I like putting skills, especially in front of even like existing code, because then that handles so many of the failure modes, right? So you might have existing code, which is supposed to do something, but the data has to be formatted in a very particular way, or it's always going to look for these things and it'll say, so you asked me to do this, but you don't have the VTT file. Here's where you might be able to find the VTT file. And someone says, I don't have a VTT file. You probably do. You'll find it here. There's to write code to do that. Oh my gosh, that'd be nightmarish. But to have an agent say, no, you probably do. Now, if you want me to do it without that at all, I can, but this is what it will look like, and I will do it. That's hugely robust. And in my mind, in many ways, that's a really nice interface if you're dealing with a human. Excellent. Other questions?
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, and Adam, apropos the CV, so the one that I what I need to do now is add some additional functionality. You know, all the places where we would go defined, right? So one of the things it was not in the version that I showed you, does a Google search for papers that I've written. Because I can tell you, I have all these collaborations that are like, I had a paper that was in like a chemistry journal that I'd completely forgotten about because I was doing work with a group that was doing AI for, it was like, no way I would have found that. So it does a Google search to see what has been published that you forgot about, you know, and also all the service that you do, and you know that's all the awards. You know, you know, it's kind of embarrassing to admit sometimes. Sometimes you get a really nice award, but you forget about it. So have it search your emails, have it search, you know, just to make sure that everything gets in there. That's a good example.
Yeah. So you mentioned the searching the email facility. Is that a thing? Can I make a skill to ask Cowork to go look through my email and pull everything from a student,
Yeah.
scheduling a mentoring meeting or whatever?
So here's where it gets problematic. So, um, can you hit it directly with an API? No, that's pretty locked down. Could you ask for what's called an open CLI or computer use to use um, you know, to use an agent to use your computer to look through your emails? Yes, you could. However, almost certainly you're going to have level 3 information there, right? Hey, professor, I failed, you know, this is Jesse Spencer Smith, and I failed my midterm, and I want you know, right? And so all of a sudden now you're shipping off level 3 information to, so a safer alternative is going to be when we do have that level 3 access, then that would be much, much safer. And we don't really have good guidelines around that right now, saying do or don't, but be aware of when things might be sent. So what I tend to do, what I like to do is do a broad search and then drop things into a particular area. But I absolutely have done computer use when I know what the subject lines are or things like that. So I have pointed and said, go and get these and bring those over. But I have to have a certain level of comfort that it's not going to be pulling up any level 3 information.
Yep, that makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's right. And the Claude Desktop Outlook extension, that's right. That's right. And that's and I'm thinking with that, it's probably going to be once we have like a Claude Desktop, which is hitting a secure back end, which is level 3, then it doesn't matter if you get an email from me that I want to retake my midterm.
If I had my way with a prompt injection detector in the middle of that,
Oh,
that's a me problem.
that's a lovely. I love it to have people watch on our back. All right, we're at the end of the time. Thank you all very much for your questions. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing what you all do. All right.